Welcome everyone to the John Kyle Wallace experience. And with me today, I have Mara. And Mara and I have been speaking for a long time, and she's just started up working with me again. And she's got some events coming up. Got some life experience to share. She's a 3/6 in human design manifesting generator. And being a 3/6, 3/6s have a lot of wisdom to share. So I encourage you to listen to that role model component of who Mara is and allow yourself to be immersed in her wisdom and wealth of knowledge as she speaks from the heart and shares with you what she has to share with you. Mara, would you like to give a brief introduction?
What would you like to know?
Well, let's start, Mara. Where are you geographically? Let's start with there.
Okay, so I live in Melbourne. I'm currently in the Basin, which is at the foot of the Dandenongs. So I'm surrounded by a lovely nature, kookaburras, cold weather, rain, a barking dog that may harass us at some point. Yeah, I'm a mother with two beautiful children. So I have a daughter who's 18. Her name's Kiana. And I have a son who's nearly 15 and his name's Uriah.
Yeah,
And
beautiful.
they are both epic, beautiful children.
Yeah,
To
that's
their
lovely,
mum.
Mara.
Yeah.
Two kids in their teens.
Yes.
Yeah, wow. I really admire parents when their kids hit their teenage years because that's the rebellious, I'm going to rebel against authority years. Has that been your experience of teenagers or?
Not at all.
Yeah,
No.
wow. Tell me, what's your experience of teenagers?
They are really conscious, beautiful, heart-centered, spiritual beings,
Mm.
and they're best friends as well. They're 4 years apart, and yeah, they're just. I think it's the giving of love and I tell them all the time that they're my teacher, and so it gives them permission to be the teacher
Mm.
and to reflect back to me things that they love, but also things that they find annoying within me, so that then we can all grow. So yeah, I
Yeah,
think that
beautiful, Mara.
makes a difference.
Yeah, I love that. And I hear that you work with them to see them grow, and you
Yeah.
also want to hear their feedback. So you're not like what I typically see is like an authoritarian type parent. It's like, no, like, tell me, like, what's alive for you? Like, what's going on for you? What are you feeling? And having two siblings that are close together as friends is also, I think, a real testament to your wisdom as a mother. And I
Mm.
mean, even in our work, when we talk about like, what are you really good at, Mara? It's like, I'm a fucking amazing mum. Like, I'm an epic mum. And I'm like, great, cool. Let's piggyback off that self
Mm.
confidence to take you in where it is that you want to go. I think part of that ties in with your business, right? So tell us a bit more about how you serve the women and or men in your life.
I feel that even at a fundamental level, regardless of what age you are, everybody wants to be loved,
Mm.
seen, held, and heard. From a baby, to, for their survival needs, then through, children, adolescents, and then to adults. And even as we're getting older and becoming elders, that's the fundamental, I believe, is the fundamental truth for everybody, that we want to be loved, seen, held, and heard and cared for. And so I think if those needs are met, then people flourish. And
Mm.
so that is my intention or focus with, the people that I work with.
And how did you come to that realization? Like, how did you come to the realization that that's the medicine that people could use?
Well, it's within myself. That's what I would love.
Mhm.
And it's also witnessing it in my children and, my niece and nephews and people in general, and being in women's circles, doing the work as well, that deep listening, like listening with the ears of our heart, not needing to fix people or change people. It is that allowing for people to share their own wisdom and their
Mm.
own experiences.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. So, talk to me a bit more about midlifing your soul. What is that? What do the words mean to you?
Mm. So midlife, to say five, because then after say 65, 70, then you're moving into the crone elder phase. So midlife, yeah, it's coming into that, say, yeah, like I said, that age bracket. And midlife is, so it's a play on words, because it's the play on words is midlife or midwife.
Mhm.
So taking care and looking after your own soul, like looking after and nurturing and caring for yourself. And it's about mothering yourself. Like how can one person, whether it's male or female, sorry, female or male, um, how can you midwife and look after your soul in
Mm,
your midlife?
thank you. And how do you feel like people forget or don't know how to do that?
How do people forget? It's just the everyday cog wheel. It's everyday life, it's past experiences, it's beliefs, it's patterns, it's parental upbringing, it's trauma, it's life experiences, where you've grown up, religious, political beliefs, education. It's a whole plethora of life experiences
Mm,
that condition us into ways of behaving or and believing. And so then we tend to forget how to nurture, mother ourselves, especially now in this day and age. Everything is so accelerated. Like life is so full. And when life is so full, then we're not actually listening to our own soul, our own heart, our own innate wisdom. We're just in the cog, constantly running, doing, and so therefore we're not really listening to what our heart is really calling us for. And so we're in this forgetting. We're in this the forgetting of our magic, of our intuition, our inner knowing, our inner wisdom.
thank you. Thank you. And for you, was there a pivotal moment for you where you knew that you were forgetting? You're like, oh, there's something else, and I need to do this thing.
I guess for me, I didn't even realize I was in this forgetting.
Hmm.
For me, it started back in 2000 when I did landmark education. And that totally flipped my lid on reality and looking at how we make meaning of things and how life is set up. And so that kind of started, that was like the pivotal point for me. It was just like, I'm just living my everyday life and la di da. And then along came this particular philosophy or an education that flipped my lid on reality. And then that then changed my course of direction. I started to study shiatsu Japanese massage. So then I did Reiki as well. So learning about energy and vibration and manifestation and so forth. So it just kind of opened me up to this other world that is, some would say is beyond our current reality, if that makes sense.
That makes perfect
Like
sense.
we've got a whole gamut of information and energy and things beyond, what we're currently taught and what we currently know.
Yeah, thank you. There's also a gene key that springs to mind, but I can't remember the number. There's one that's specifically about meaning making. And I
Mm.
know what you're talking about in the forum, the landmark forum, that like that last day where you realize that, wait a minute, you mean life is empty and meaningless, and it's
Ah,
empty and meaningless, that it's empty and meaningless. It's like just
that did
drops
my
in.
head in. Oh my, yeah, that did my head in. And then I think you go out for dinner after that. Like they leave you in that contemplation. And I'm like, what's the whole point to life then? It's like,
It's good, but it's a great foundation to reset, right?
oh, absolutely. Yeah, totally.
So then from
Yeah.
there, in your resetting and rediscovering yourself, right, Mara? And you've done various like, soul courses and midlifing courses. So what would you say has really brought you back into your body and into yourself?
I would say nature.
Mm.
Yeah. Everything like, earth connection, nature, the vision quests, connecting in with the sun, the moon, the trees, the land, the oceans, the air, all the elements, the fire.
Mm.
Um, yeah, and the animal spirits as well, connecting vibrationally, connecting to the nature spirits. Just recently coming back from Peru, well, being in Peru, connecting in with the rock beings. So just really seeing the faces and the energy and the forms and the information that the rock beings had. I haven't
Mm.
really connected that deeply with the rock beings. Yeah, so nature for me is like my main teacher.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. So, in the context of, I mean, we've been speaking before about the Marga and the
Yes,
archetype of the
yeah.
Marga. So,
hmm
in the context of wisdom and learning from life experience, how does the Marga play in with that? Can you give us some info into that,
So yeah, I'll just explain the Marga as
please?
well. Yeah. So we have the triple goddess, which is, eons old information. And so the triple goddess is the maiden, which is the young woman, and, the young daughter. Then we've got the mother. And so it's either the physical mother who's had children, or it could be the mother energy that is birthing projects and careers and so forth. And then we have the crone. So it was the maiden, the mother, the crone was the triple goddess. And so then my teacher, Jane Hardwood Collings, through the School of Shamanic Womancraft, and there's, lots of teachers now with this particular philosophy, because we're living longer, they've inserted the Marga. And so Marga means, it's the feminine version of Magus, which means magician. So we're not the crone, where we're this elder and, the diminishing of energy, and we're like our pace is slowing down as an elder. We are this magician. So we have, 45 plus years of information and wisdom, life experiences, challenges, contrast, how we've overcome those challenges, how we've, stepped into our gifts from our shadow, etc. And we still contain a lot of energy to be that essence, this new gift, the wounded healer, which is the Chiron. And we have Chiron returned at 52. And we have this energy to still be our gifts and our energy out in the world. So that's what the Marga is.
Beautiful. Thank you.
So what was the
That's
question?
okay. Great. I just want to be with that definition because
Okay.
that was a great explanation. So, in the context of the Marga and the maiden and the mother, where do you feel like women get stuck on their rites of passage into those other archetypes? What are they missing?
Where do they get stuck? I mean, they can get stuck at any point because, like we've got all those different age brackets, like there's 0 to 7, 7 to 14, 14, and then beyond. And so things can happen to both women and men during those different phases and experience traumatic, experience trauma and, all the life experiences. Maybe they get stuck, like in the teenage years, there may be a lot of wounding in the teenage years, the challenges that teenagers experience with parents and how they establish themselves in the world. And then you go through your 20s and 30s, and then you've still got your life experiences. And so
Mm.
you're going through that forgetting. You're going through the forgetting of what your magic is and your intuition and your inner knowing and wisdom. And so then you get to, your 40s and 50s, and then it's like, okay. And I guess when you start to hit 50, it's like, shit, I'm now on the other side. Like I'm getting closer to my death. What now? And I've got all this life experience. So it's like now I'm facing my death. And so in that, that recognition of, wow, I might only have like 20 or 30 years left. What am I going to do with my life? And so I think that's kind of like that pivotal point of, okay, I can continue being who I've been these last 40, 50 years, or what legacy do I want to leave? What's left for me to do? Do I want to continue living this mediocre life, or do I want to change my life and live in my fullest potential?
Thank you. Beautiful, Mara. Yeah, when you were speaking to that, I could see there's a potential for a descent into like a bitterness of,
Mm,
oh, I'm just going to stay this mediocre life. Like nothing works out for me. I'm just going to stay in this descent. I'm going to hold on to all my knowledge. I'm going to actually use my knowledge against people instead of with people.
yeah,
But then there's an opportunity for leveraging the vitality and the wisdom and that juiciness that's still there. Like it's still there, right?
absolutely, yeah,
And being
absolutely.
able to bring it into the world. So for you, and in this transition into Marga and where you're at right now, what offerings did you have you created to really bring women into this space?
Mm. So, yes, I've got the Midlife Your Soul retreat. And so I've got one coming up in Victoria in a couple of weeks for winter solstice. And then I've got one coming up in Italy, September 7th to the 16th. And so it's this opportunity for women in their perimenopause, menopause phase, and their midlife phase to come and connect, nurture, and awaken their magic. So, yeah, it's essentially looking at where the women are currently at, and then choosing to explore and connect to their own inner wisdom and their inner magic, and to activate that, so to speak.
Yeah, beautiful. And when we were talking about it yesterday, and I was like, we got to get this on the podcast.
Mm,
Was the nurturing component, like being a woman, reminding a woman how they can be nurtured, like coming out of this mother phase of always giving to the children, like giving
mm,
to a point of compromise or self sacrifice or people pleasing, and what it can feel like to be able to share stories with other women and self reclamation and being taken care of and being nurtured again, to be honored in their wisdom, to be, oh, you've
mm,
actually got a lot of wisdom in those years. Like, how do you raise teenagers? Like, how do you do that? Like, what's the best way to do that? Right. Because I think there's a lot of lost wisdom, and we turn to books and we turn to like
mm,
influencers and other things, but really when we turn within and look to our communities, there's so many pillars that we can speak to. So for that's what I heard in our conversation yesterday. Talk more about the importance of being nurtured into these spaces.
mm. I feel and women especially, because they are the nurturers, we just give so much. We give to like at a young age, we give to our maybe to our bosses and to careers and to projects and to our friends and partying and so forth. So we're giving, and then if we do become a mother, then we're giving our energy to our children. Like we're 9 months with this beautiful baby in our belly, and then if we choose to breastfeed, then we're giving through breastfeeding and bringing our baby, like we have to nurture our baby and make sure that it stays alive. Then there's women who sadly miscarriage, and or they may choose to have an abortion. So they're not actually giving a lot of women don't give themselves time to grieve.
Yeah.
We just go straight back into life and straight back into work, and don't even give ourselves time to recognize what has happened to our bodies, and then it's having to reverse back into that process. So we're constantly nurturing other people, other experiences, life, and then we come into this menopause, the perimenopause, menopause phase, and we're not even nurturing ourselves through that process. Like we go through, women go through so many changes right from a teenage through the beginning of the menses, then cycling every month, and then going through pregnancies and birthing, depending on how that looks. And then we come into this perimenopause, menopause phase. And again, our bodies are changing, like all our hormones are changing, our emotions are changing. We don't even know, not even aware of what's going on. And because then our hormones are changing, then our tolerance changes as well. And so we're not giving ourselves time for those processes to happen. We're not changing our diet. We're not seeking out maybe a naturopath to stabilize our hormones. And so then it can become chaotic. Some women can feel madness, like I certainly went through a phase of madness and unsure of what was happening.
Mm.
So nurturing is like, how can we take care of ourselves, through all the years? How can we give ourselves a break and mother ourselves and look after our hormones? How do we take care of ourselves? How do we bring presence to ourselves? Um, and like you said at the beginning, somewhere at the beginning of this session, of all that projection going outwards, now bringing it inwards to ourselves, looking at this beautiful mirror of ourselves and nurturing our hearts and our bodies and our hormones. How can we do that? And
Mm.
that's what midlife your soul, that's the intention, is to dance with all of that and to come into presence and to come into our own inner wisdom and listen, like, ask ourselves, what do you need right now?
Yeah,
Mm.
thank you, Mara. I can feel all that download and that activation coming into me. And what comes out straight away is like with Cassie, like my wife, her not being aware of being able to ask for what her wants and needs are. Like when she started, when she was pregnant with Luca, and that's
Mm.
been a reoccurring theme with all the women that I work with, is they're not attuned to what they need, and then within that they haven't got the vocabulary to even ask for what they need, or the
Mm.
belief that the people around them do want to contribute to them
Mm.
and give them the space that's required. For example, like I know the importance of going on retreat, like actually physically, geographically removing yourself from a family system
Yeah.
to be able to rejuvenate and repair. Like doing retreats from home might feel like you're, if it's online, feel like you're connecting with people. But as
Yeah.
soon as you get away from the computer and go back outside into the kitchen or the
Mm.
living room, you're straight back in that same energy again of like, oh,
That's right.
household,
Yeah.
right? So, like, even with Cassie, whenever she wants to take a walk and I babysit Luca, it's like, yeah, go for a walk. I've got Luca. I'll go do something. So,
Yeah.
me removing Luca from the house, my son, or Cassie being able to go and do her own thing makes a huge difference for our relationship dynamic. And I think husbands and partners in particular who don't understand the importance of their wife getting away
Yeah.
will never reap the benefits of what it's like to have a union that can really work for everybody,
That's right.
right? Because when you look at the return on investment on retreats, it's like, well, like it's not like I'm not buying Bitcoin, I'm not doing this, like I'm not putting money in an investment to get back. But when a partner can understand that a woman is a multiplier of his kingdom, not that
Mm.
you need to be attached to that, but just naturally her essence, like her wisdom, like her connection to nature that men can really struggle with, is such a
Mm.
divine place to step into and receive, that there's a new world that's available when women are nurtured in this way and encouraged to be nurtured in this way, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I said a lot there. What did you hear for yourself in that riff?
I hear for the women when they go on retreat, it's about, and even going out for the day, going out in nature. Like I saw your post on the weekend, and I think Cassie had gone to Pilates in the morning and then swimming in the afternoon. And I absolutely love that she was taking herself out to do things to nurture herself. And then you were holding space for you and Luca. Um, but what I can hear in that is filling your cup, like both women and men need to fill their cups, and it looks different to each individual what filling your cup looks like, but it is about filling your cup, and then when your cup is overflowing, with juiciness and love and joy and connection and yummy food and maybe connecting with other women, and that then your cup is overflowing. So then when you come back into the house and you're coming from an overflowed cup rather than coming from lack
Mm.
and depletion and resentment and sadness and confusion and not feeling held and like it's the opposite of feeling love, held, heard and seen.
Yeah,
It's you're coming from that depleted space.
thank you. And so
So
for tips
yeah.
for the women out there or anyone that's listening, from your experience of knowing when your cup is empty, like what are your key indicators for you when you know that your cup is less than full?
Often, yeah, resentment, probably projecting onto other people, um, feeling depleted, going for coffee, going for chocolate. Um, yeah, not maybe not exercising as much. I'm feeling sad or like feeling emotional, um, not eating properly, not doing things that bring me joy. So I'm kind of feeling in that stuckness.
How
I
does it
feel like I'm in that mundane.
right, right, right. How do you feel like it would impact your business, or it impacts your business?
For me, it's like feeling like lack of confidence.
Right.
Yeah, so lack of confidence, procrastination, um, yeah, not doing the things that I need to do. So
Mm,
yeah, wasting time, which is the same as procrastination. Focusing on other things, probably being a people pleaser, like trying to get energy from other means, you know. And then I guess it's the victim voice. It's, yeah, and that kind of that wounding, like the poor me, that victim kind of energy,
mm,
and not caring and loving the self. You know, when you're doing things that nurture you, you're doing things that bring you joy, that bring you love,
mm.
um, that bring healthiness and vitality and filling your cup. So yeah, it's the contrast.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. When you're speaking, like, I saw the picture of the volcano, like in
Oh yeah,
Italy.
it was
So,
perfect.
what I'd love for you to speak to is just because you got two events, you got one in Italy and then one in Victoria. Just describe if you were someone coming to the Victorian event, like what's a woman to expect when she comes there? Like, what's she gonna get when she steps onto the property or gets off the plane, or whatever it is? Like, what do you like? Describe it to me.
Mm. So, Quantopia. So this is like a co-creation with a dear friend of mine, Vanessa and Mike, who they're the custodians of the land, and they're embedded in a beautiful mountain range, which is Mount Disappointment. So already you're in this lushness of Australian bushland and eucalypts and kangaroos. They've got a beautiful dam. They've got a beautiful property nestled in there as well, which is really modern. They've what else have they got? Beautiful stretch tent, and they're on 60 acres, so you can go for beautiful walks and take yourself on an immersion. If you want to be the adventurous type, you can jump in the buggy with Mike, and he can do cross country buggying, which is pretty awesome as well. It's just really beautiful and nurturing. And Ness does all the cooking, and her cooking is just made with love. Like everything that you taste is just imbued with love, and you can feel it when you bring it in.
Mm.
And then there's the workshop space that I bring into this co-creation. It's co-weaving, and so bringing all my wisdom into the space, weaving the wisdom with the women. So the whole idea is to activate the wisdom within the women. So they're tuning into nature, tuning into themselves, recognizing where they're currently at, and then looking at, okay, well, what would you love to create for yourself moving forward in your midlife? And so we start to explore that possibility as well. And then we move into a beautiful honouring rite of passage process where they get to make their own crowns. They get to acknowledge and recognise their own queen within themselves. And so we go through this beautiful honouring rite of passage process. I don't want to give too much away
Yeah,
because,
cool.
yeah, it takes away the magic.
No, I hear that.
But
I love that.
then, yeah, and then we go into a beautiful cacao and blue lotus ceremony, which is very heart opening, into an ecstatic dance as well. So
Beautiful. Thanks, Mara.
that's Victoria.
In Victoria, fantastic. So, describe for me, like, a woman would walk in with a cup that's possibly like quite depleted and empty. And did you say it was Mount Disappointment?
Yeah.
Yeah, great. I love that. Like, I love just all the symbolism there. Like for a woman who has an empty cup, right? And disappointment, like, it's disappointing. Like, my life has kind of become disappointing, right? When you're disconnected from the vitality of life, it's like, oh, my life's just become a constant disappointment. But they walk in, cup half empty, or maybe even broken. Maybe there's a leaky
Mm.
cup, right? And how
Yeah,
do they
true.
leave? How would you say they leave, Mara?
They feel and leave connected and ecstatic, and they have some next steps moving forward. And they're walking out as the queen, as you know, the Maga, this beautiful magician, knowing who they are, knowing that they have access to their own inner wisdom, and they're in this beautiful space of choice. You know, do I want, you know, what would I like to do now with this with this inner knowing and with this vitality? Like, do I want to explore my essence in the world, and what does that look like? You know, like maybe they'd like to share their wisdom with other people, or maybe they'd like to share it just with their family or with community. Maybe they'd like to write a book, or however it wants to present itself. It's but that vitality and that understanding is available to them when they walk out.
Yeah, beautiful, fantastic. So that's Victoria.
Yeah.
Yeah. So everyone take a deep breath who's listening, including me and Mara. Right now we spoke about Italy last night, and we had so many laughs about it. And specifically the culture is different. So you're running another one of these in Italy. So talk to me about the importance of Italy for you.
Hmm. So I'm half Italian. My dad's Italian. So yeah, my bloodline runs deep in Italy, and I've been there multiple times. I've got family and cousins and so on. So deeply embedded in the family culture that you know exists in Italy and a lot of European countries. Um, I just love the culture of Italy. I love the language, the food, the romance, the deliciousness of it, the ritual of family and sitting down. We also spoke last night about the slow pace compared to Australia and you know a lot of other countries. That Australia, like for me, it's like fast paced all the time. Like you wake up in the morning and it's just go, go, go. You go to the gym, you do this, you do that, you go to work, family, kids, making meals, you know, and it's just this constant fast-paced life until you go to bed. Whereas in Italy, like with my dad's hometown, I'll just describe that. It's just, you know, like it's noisy at 7 or 8 a.m. You know, like the little cars are driving around, they're tooting, it's chaos, they're getting to work and school and all that sort of stuff. But then at 1 o'clock, they come back and then it's dead quiet. Like it's, you know, there may be one or two cars driving around, but generally people are like at their homes and they're sitting down for a family meal, two, you know, maybe two courses, glass of wine, the Amato, the Aperol Spritz, you know, and they're having conversations. And then after that, it's just like, well, they've got full bellies, let's have a siesta. So then they go and have a rest time. And then that'll last until about 4, 5, 6 o'clock. And then they go back to work until 8 o'clock. And then after that, then they might go for a little walk into the town centre. Like they call it the passeggiata, you know. So they go for a passeggiata means walking. So then they go for a walk and then they're, you know, catching up with family and friends. I have no idea what they have got to say because they do this, you know, maybe day in, day out, or especially on a Friday, Saturday night, like the street is packed. I have no idea what they've got to say each week, but this is their life and their culture. And I just love Italy. It's yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. So if a woman was to go over there and experience that culture and bring it back to her family system or her life, what do you think could potentially shift in her life for her?
Um, the word juiciness, like we were talking about juiciness last night about it, and I think with Italy, you know, like men are very romantic over there, and you may be wolf whistled. It's very common, and they love women that are voluptuous and really acknowledge women as well. I mean, there can be the shadow side of that. I want to acknowledge
Sure.
that, you know, there could be a shadow aspect of that as well. But there's like this juiciness of culture, you know, like I was even describing the donuts, you know, like they're overflowing with fresh custard. And everything's so flavoursome because it's homemade cooking, the tomato sauce and the homemade wine and the amato. And, you know, we go and get the fresh cheese produce and the fresh bread, and then we make these beautiful fresh rolls. And yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's just the culture. And I think a lot of European cultures are actually like that as well. You know, I can see that in France and
Yeah, thank you. As you were
yeah.
creating that, I could smell it. Like I can smell
Oh.
like the fresh bread. I can smell like the town. It's alive with life, right? And even the like the wolf whistling. So there's sexual energy that's in the space because it's slow. There's present to be. You're not running off to the
Mm,
gym or doing a bunch of squats every day just to get your bum look big to attract someone, right? There's just a genuine like honor of oh, like that's you're beautiful. Like right? There's a kind of
yeah.
it's there, right? It's alive. So I see
Mm,
there's always the space for your cup to overflow, and then do you want that to be poured into your cup? Because I
that's
think
right.
coming from a culture that can make some of that behavior wrong and like, oh,
Mm,
that's sexist, oh, that's this, or that's that. But then deep down, like craving, Mara,
that's
I
right.
think some women just when especially if you're with a partner for a long time, like they
Mm,
stop wolf whistling you, right?
yeah.
Sometimes they can stop being that genuine, affectionate being that they were in the beginning. So
Yeah.
being able to experience that, oh, it's coming from somebody else. I don't need to take it any more than if they're with someone, for example. I don't need to take it any more than what it is there.
Yeah.
But just allowing yourself to feel that richness, to know that there's that slowness and that sensuality and connection that's available, like it invigorates that juiciness, right? So for a woman to get her cup filled up and come home and to know that there's juiciness been restored in her body, like well, how could that flow into her family system or her business or her relationship? Like what do you potentially see there?
The word alive.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
You know, the business is alive, the relationships are alive, alive with children, alive within yourself, alive with life.
Mm,
And it's the opposite of the paradigm that especially menopausal women are told, you
yeah.
know, that we're all dried up, we're no good anymore. Let's just discard them. We have to always look young and be in, you know, always look younger so that we are seen and loved and heard and felt and you know, and we are desired and, you know, sexual activity, you know, we don't have that paradigm. The menopausal woman doesn't have that paradigm. It's, you know, it's like we're done, you know, we're not, we're not young anymore and we're not juicy anymore. And so women coming into their midlife have got this particular paradigm and they're trying to live back in a you know back in the day. They want to stay young so that they are desired and loved and sexualized, or not sexualized, that's not the right word, but um going into you know sexuality and sensuality and pleasure and so forth. So you know we've got this contrast going on, and you know women are bending over backwards to try and stay young.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, we've got this, we still have so much vitality and we still have juiciness.
Mm,
And we just need to explore those aspects of ourselves and give ourselves that time and space and nurturing and care and loving ourselves to explore that. And somewhere like Italy, you're in it, you know, everything from delicious chocolate ice cream to you know beautiful wine and being immersed in the culture and the sunshine and the waters and the whole experience. Yeah.
yeah, beautiful. Thank you.
Did I make sense then?
You did. Just trust it. Trust it.
Okay.
So in that, Mara, like when you were speaking about the menopausal women and going into this phase and becoming like a husk and discarded, what the word that kept ringing out to me was being written off,
That yeah.
like being just written off. So can you describe what your experience with women and maybe even your experience of your life of what's been moments where you've felt written off of where you are in life right now? Can you talk more to that?
Mm. It's really disheartening and it's confusing and it's sad. It's depressing. Um, yeah, it's soul crushing. Yeah,
Mm,
and then you lose confidence within yourself. And then it's like, oh, how do I get my needs met? How do I draw it? Like, where's my attention? Where's like, how am I seen and held and heard and loved? How do I give that to myself, in this particular paradigm? And so there is this, there can be like this spiral downwards and feeling really stuck and not knowing how to move forward and what that even looks like because you're stuck. It's almost like you're in quicksand. It's like, how do I get myself out of this quicksand? Because I'm just cycling around in these thoughts and processes, and the hormones are affecting you as well. Like I said earlier, like there was some stages there where I actually felt quite mad. Like, I don't know what's reality right now. I don't know what's going on. Is this
mm,
my projection, or is this what I'm really feeling? Is this what I'm experiencing? Is this what I'm really seeing? Or is this my stuff? Is it their stuff?
mm,
So for me, it was, yeah, a lot of confusion. And um, I guess it's like I've stopped trusting within myself. So I've stopped trusting my own inner wisdom, my own intuition. And then you're in this confusion and in this looping pattern. So yeah, so that's been my experience, and that can be the experience for other women as well.
mm. Thank you. Yeah, I really feel all that.
Mm.
I also heard Jinky 61 in there too, the psychosis.
Ah, yeah.
And just how
That's what, yeah,
great.
that's what it feels like. It can feel
Yeah.
like.
Yeah, like and a death of like all this wisdom that you had, like when you trusting your intuition, but then when your body starts like throwing all these other like spanners in the works.
Mm,
What's the who am I really? What's happened to my radar? And why am I getting
mm,
so angry? Why am I getting so sad? Like what's going on? The buffer of the buffer that was there during my menstrual cycle is no longer there. So I'm
mm,
just this raw. I'm raw. It's
mm,
uncomfortable, and I still want to be loved, but I seem to be unconsciously pushing people away. But that's not what my intention is. I want to bring them all in, but I'm not the woman that I was. So how can I be supported through this rite of passage,
mm.
and still be respected and honored for my wisdom, and not maybe not so much as my biology has been relied upon. Maybe I don't know. Does that sound true for you or?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah. And then what I'm hearing that in too is that women aren't taught about their menses, like their menstrual cycle, and this opportunity where, like when they're bleeding, it's an opportunity to let go. And then once that's completed, then you go into this new cycle, and then you're coming into like a spring phase, and then you come into the peak of summer, which is ovulation. It's like, oh, I'm ready, to receive, and like the body wants to create a baby. So this is like the whole ovulation and the energy of it, which is like that kind of summer energy. And then the egg doesn't get fertilized, and so internally the body, there's like a disappointment. It's like, oh, so that energetically that's autumn. And
Mm,
so then that's an opportunity then like to kind of review and evaluate, and then we go back into letting go, and then there's that death phase, which we go then back into the winter phase and
mm,
hibernation. And so for women that are menstruating, we have this beautiful opportunity to tune into our cycle month by month, where it is that that birth, the harvesting, the peak, the ovulating, and then the letting go, and then the death, rebirth, and then the cycle. It's the cycle of life. It's the seasons.
mm,
And so the Marga is also in that autumn phase. It's that letting go phase. The maiden is the
mm,
spring. The mother is the summer. The Marga is the autumn phase. And then the crone is the winter, the elder, and then eventually the death phase. It's that, that going in. So
mm,
we're not, women are often not connected to even their cycles and knowing the magic that is available to them. And so it's the same when you come into this menopause phase of, what now, that rite of passage, we're coming into another rite of passage. It is the death of our older selves, letting go of the maiden and the mother, and letting go of our menses. And then, right, who am I now?
mm,
What does this woman coming into 50 plus years of wisdom, what does she look like? What does she want? What does she need? How is she seen, held, heard, and loved? How can she give that to herself first?
Mm.
And how does she receive that from the external?
Thank you, Mara. Yeah, the words that are ringing out to me right now is like soul is screaming,
Mm,
like a collective soul screaming of women of what's their body crying out for, like what's then what are they not getting right now, um,
yeah,
and a woman with an empty cup that lives in Australia, for example, where it's always go go go, get up, do a thing, next thing,
yeah.
itemize the whole thing, and being able to slow down. How does a woman recognize when their cup is empty that their soul is screaming?
Well, it's the contrast, there's like different languaging. There's like the contrast, the shadow, the negative experiences. It's the things in our life that are presenting that is causing us pain, grief. It could be a health issue. It could be distress. It could be an accident that happens to us. It could even be an accident that happens to somebody else. Like, for example, my brother had an accident when we were quite young. And so, that has influenced our family. So it could be something that's presenting to us that is forcing us to look at ourselves, looking at our own lives. And yeah, it's all those kind of perceived, all those negative experiences that, yeah,
Thank you. You just gave me a breadcrumb there. What I find in the women that I work with is when they've gone through some kind of hardship, they can use that as leverage to not take care of themselves. Where,
yeah,
like, for example, like there's a family crisis or a sibling gets sick or there's something else that happens,
mm,
and because they're healthy and they've got it, they can do things that the sibling can't do. They kind of make this internal compromise that, oh, I'm not allowed that because that person needs more attention than I do,
yeah,
right? And that plays out throughout their life, and they get to like their own mount disappointment, and they look down at the timeline of their life and like, oh my god, like I've been living this life and I actually didn't know that I could ask for like space or help or something, right?
yeah.
So what do you feel like you're midlifing the soul? How can you help women get their voice back to be able to speak to these things? How do you feel you could help them get their voice back?
I think it's just it's that deep listening. It's
Mm.
sitting in circle with women and sharing our stories. The sharing of stories is so valid. It's acknowledging our journey, which is all part of it. It's the journey and the contrast and the negative experiences, as we know, is how we learn. It's the opportunity to make a different choice and to do things differently. And sometimes we get stuck in the loop, and that's okay. Like we might get stuck back in that cycle, and then we'll have another experience that will then take us out of that to again look at ourselves and look at the choices that we're making.
Mm.
And yeah, hopefully, eventually we do make a more conscious choice coming from the wisdom and all we might see our patterns. It's like, oh, I've done this like bloody 10 times. I've done it lifetimes, so how can I do this differently now? What choices am I making? And sometimes it's a radical choice to, and it can be scary in that. And it's stepping away from certain paradigms, it's stepping away from certain people, ways of behaving, things that we've done. And that too can be quite scary. But it's like, well, do I want to stay in the life that I already know that's making me unhappy? Or am I prepared to find my courage and take that leap to try something different? And it may be maybe really scary and life changing, and it may feel like I'm dying. It could feel like a death. Well, it probably will feel like a death,
Mm.
but in that there's going to be this beautiful growth, this exponential growth and change, and the ripple effect that has then the way that you're showing up, like the way that I'm showing up for my children right now, and the way that you show up for the lineage, like your parents, like I'm doing things different to how my mum and dad did it, and my ancestors and how they did it. So you're healing not only yourself, but you're healing for your children and healing for your lineages and your ancestors, and you're healing for the planet.
Mm. Thank you. That was beautiful, Mara. And when you listen to this on replay, just listen to some of the wisdom that's coming out of your mouth, Mara, because
Mm.
you're dropping some serious, delicious,
Mm.
juicy, custard overflowing donuts and some gelato right here, right now. So
Mm.
thank you, Mara. I think we'll start to wrap it up here. Now,
Can I
if
just,
yeah,
sorry,
please jump in. Yeah,
I just want to add one more piece
yeah.
that's coming through is the mother that is screaming at us right now. You know, it's the Mother Earth that we live. She is depleted. She is screaming at all of us. She is wanting us to make change. It's not just our own soul that is calling and screaming for change and evolution. You know, it's for all of us. It's not just the woman in their midlife. The message is really for all of us to be our essence and be our gifts and our beauty and our love in the world. And our mother is screaming for that because the things that we're doing to her, it's no bueno. It's not good, you know, and she's calling us into love and connection and healing and beauty and to take care of her. Like it's our home, you know, and it's the same as this is our home. Our body and our soul is our home. So it's the soul of the mother that is also screaming at us, and she's screaming at us through her own projections, through climate, through food, through resources, through things, you know, we're putting all this blame on different things, but it's just the reflection, it's the mirror of us, of what we're doing to ourselves and what we're doing to her. And so the midlife your soul, it's just looking after all our souls, regardless of what age, and the souls of our children. Like nurture our children, hold them through their contrast, don't put them down and make them wrong and punish them. And you know, like little kids, I'm going to put you in the naughty corner for 5 minutes or whatever. Like fuck that. Excuse my language. Will that get bleeped?
No.
It's, you know, it's like it's holding the children through their contrast as well, holding their soul so that then, you know, they're learning through their own lessons and not being punished through that. So it's all of us. How can we all hold our souls and love ourselves and nurture? And how can we care for each other? You know, how can we love and acknowledge and care for each other? And how can we care for this earth?
Mm.
Mm.
Ah, thank you for adding that, Mara. And thank you for being. I need to include this. I want to include this. Like it's your voice is really important. Like your
Mm.
breadth of wisdom is really important because I can feel that it comes from an embodied wisdom, and I love that. I love hearing you speak from that place
Mm.
because it's so grounded, and you speak with such a passion that ignites something in me too. Because I think
Mm.
as a man to receive that, and what that feels like it's a charge. Like it's not the same charge that you get from like listening to Tony Robbins or Andrew Huberman or David Goggins. There's a feminine leadership wisdom charge that comes
Mm.
from wisdom that way, that invigorates a man that's connected to connected to that aspect of nature, or wants to connect to that aspect of nature, and that he wants to bring up his family in the same way. Like for me, helping Luca connect to nature, encourage Cassie to connect to nature, like making the
Mm.
space in the schedule to do that, right, and
Yeah.
facilitating that and meeting with people that want to meet in nature and connect to like grandmother, grandfather, the spirits, the old spirits, the spirits of the land, rock spirits, tree spirits, just the wisdom that is held in the earth. And I think we can really overcomplicate things as humans.
Yeah.
We try and engineer things to make it work, but it's all heady. It's so simple when you
Yeah.
come right back down to it and connect in with the earth and listen to the wisdom. The steps are so simple. And I think a space like like going on retreat and going to Italy, changing location and immersing yourself in a different culture and environment allows your body to resync to those rhythms
That's right.
that you can't find in the 9 to 5 or getting up at 4 a.m. to go to the gym or whatever it is. So, is there
Mm.
anything else that you want to add to that, Mara?
It's just that reminder that we do have access to, like we call it magic, but it's the subtle energies. It is nature, it is the earth. There's so much more available to us than what meets the eye and what our everyday experience. And we're so distracted and disconnected from all of that. And that's what a retreat does.
Mm.
I mean, always the rubber hits the road when you get back home, and then how do you integrate that? How do you continue living that magic? And it's as simple as going for a walk every day and, talking with the trees. And, I saw two kookaburras sitting on the trees, just about an hour ago, and just connecting in with them and
Yeah.
saying good day to them and listening to them. Yeah, so it is, we do have access. I call it magic, but it is the everyday beauty of what is available to us through nature, through the foods that we eat, through the people, through our cultures, through all the different cultures and, all the things all the different cultural immersions bring to us. We're so blessed
Yeah.
to be human and to have the whole plethora of experiences in our life. And we can get so stuck in our victim and our stories and our wounds and process and our loops. And if we can step out of that and step into the realm of our own inner wisdom and magic and what's available to us, then we can have a joyful, abundant, juicy, loving, caring life for
Mm.
everyone.
Mm. Thank you, Mara. And anyone that's listened to this and has felt the charge or the inspiration from this message, then reach out to Mara. Find her.
Mm.
I'll put all of her details in the socials, but find her on Facebook. You're on Instagram as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, great. So find her on the social, send her a message and tell her that even just tell her that this message touched you. Yeah,
Mm.
there's something about it that, Mara, you're speaking my language. Oh my God, you gave me a voice. Oh my God, Mara, I'd love to come to your retreat, either Victoria or Italy. Just these are the steps that it takes in order to start claiming and reclaiming who you are. And it
Mm.
really does take that time to prioritize yourself. Because I know for a lot of people that I work with, when they go to prioritize themselves, something else will jump out of the woodwork, right? You start typing this message to Mara, for example, and then you get a call from someone, or your kid jumps out of bed all of a sudden, or someone breaks something in the house, or you go and rush to do something else. So the
Mm.
universe is always going to test you in the action. So if you've listened to this, go and take the action. Go and reach out to Mara and tell her it touched you, and maybe you'd like to come to her retreat either in Victoria or in Italy. But really do it and trust yourself in that reach out.
Mm.
Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, it's in that validation. Even just getting a message from somebody
Yeah.
then fills my cup, and then it's this beautiful tellurial energy field that fills my cup because I filled your cup, and it's that irony, reciprocity, giving, receiving, and my power animal is spider, so it's like that spider medicine. It's that weaving of all our magic and medicines. Like it's all of it, and that lights me up. That's my kink.
It's my kink too. That true gift economy. All right,
Yeah.
Maris, thank you
Thank you
so much
so
for
much,
joining me.
John. Yeah, thank you. That was amazing.
My pleasure.
I
I'm
look
here.
forward to listening back, and yeah.